good morning. Welcome to my channel. Today we are going to discuss IoC container or IoC inversion of control in Spring Boot. Before IoC, if you need to deal with objects, what we do, we create classes. In the given example, I have created user repository, get user throwing a name, and I have created another class like user service, and in that user service I am creating an object for user repository equal to new user repository. I am using new keyword and the class name to create an object manually. Same thing I am doing in the main class also. In the main method I am creating a new user service. So whenever I use new and class name, I'm invoking a constructor to create an object for the class. It's a manual way to create an object based on the class. Whenever I have to create a class, I will use new keyword, then call the constructor. So this is how we manually create an object for a class. Suppose if I deal with 30 classes, if I need 30 objects, I need to use new operator for 30 times. So we need to create an object, you need to manage the object. So this is the thing we need to deal with, the manual creation process when you are working for large applications. But in Spring, there is something called IoC. IoC is nothing but inversion of control. Means the IoC container, the Spring will takes care of creating objects for us and manage those objects for us. We will not create objects manually. We will not use new keyword and class name or constructor to create objects whenever it's required. No, we don't do that. In the Spring or in the Spring Boot, when you define a class with component or other annotations, I will tell you those annotations soon. Spring is going to create objects for us and make it available. It will manage the objects. The object is no longer available, then it will destroy the objects, kill the objects, remove the objects from the heap. If you go with the definition of IoC, here is IoC is a Spring, a design principle where control of object creation and dependency management is transferred from application code to Spring container. Means we are not controlling those classes, those objects from our code. Spring is going to handle for us. It's an advantage. In Spring IoC, we have two things: IoC container and dependency injection. Let's look at container. So if you want your object to be handled by Spring, what we'll use? We can say mark the particular class as component or bean or repository or few other annotations. Means Spring is going to handle those classes, create objects for us and make it available for you. You can straight away use those objects. And there is something called auto-void. So there is something called dependency injection. So dependency injection means when you need an object, what we use, we put that component on the top of the class and that object will be created. But in Spring, not only that object will be created, it will be creating dependent objects also. If you look at in this code, I have a user repository marked as repository. Means a repository annotation is nothing but it's a extension of component annotation plus additional. Means it will deal with the database. If you see user service marked with service annotation is nothing but component annotation plus additional features. Means this class behave like a service class between repository and application. And you see add that auto word means this is the magic here. In the Spring Boot application, the Spring IoC example application, I marked user service as add auto word means Spring is going to create objects for a Spring Boot application as well as it will create objects for user service, which is marked as auto word. It's going to create objects for user service as well as any dependent objects required for creating user service also created. When you mark any particular class as auto word means Spring is going to create objects whenever it bootstraps. That is a great thing about AutoWord. Let's create the code and see in the live. Let's create a project. IoC demo maven 23 varchar input perfect. Create a repository class. I'm just returning a string, marking it as a repository, creating one more class as service. So I'm doing two things here. That's fine. Should be service. So this is user repository and I'm doing constructor annotation and constructor level auto varying, and I need to go for, let me go for command line runner. Perfect, this is perfect. So let me get the service. So what I will do, let me get the service here. The service I'm creating an object for repository through AutoWare, and let me run this guy. See, we got John, which means we are not using new operator here. We are getting object for user service through AutoWire. This is called dependency injection. And here in this class, we are getting user repository through AutoWire. We are not using new operator here. I want to see how these classes are loaded or is it available at Spring Boot. So what I will do, let me do something here. Yes, I'm getting application context. I'm getting all the bins, checking these two bins are available or not. Yeah, I see these two bins are available. If I unblock here, I mean, if I remove this condition here, if you rerun, you see these many objects Spring Boot has created and available for us. Yeah, these are our classes, two classes. So we are not using new operator here. Spring Boot is creating objects for us. The benefits of IOC is that it's a loose coupling. We don't directly, components directly don't depend on each other. That's the advantage and better testability and flexible also. This is the use of IOC.